Welcome back to Hopeful Moments 1. Today, we're diving into 3 hilarious stories that will make you laugh out loud. Featuring clever paybacks, awkward situations, and unexpected twists. Tesla drivers hogging all the charging stations? My ultimate revenge. When selfishness takes over, can a small plan change the mindset of a group of stubborn drivers? Sister-in-law, stop dreaming, you're not part of my family. A family story full of drama. When someone overestimates their place, sometimes they need a reality check. Won't stop calling? Alright, I'll make sure you learn your lesson. A lesson for those who don't understand the meaning of boundaries. Are you ready? Let's jump right in. Story 1, Tesla drivers hogging the charging station? My ultimate payback. Have you ever encountered people whose radiance is so blinding that even the sun needs sunglasses? These are the folks who walk with such pride, as if the very ground they step on should feel honored. Well, let me introduce you to the self-proclaimed lords of the Tesla charging stations in my apartment complex, people who firmly believe that the EV chargers are their family inheritance rather than a shared facility. Need to charge your car? Sorry, the universe isn't on your side today. Those Teslas have taken root at the station, plugged in all night, and by morning, they still haven't budged. And here's the peak of selfish artistry: some drivers don't even bother charging but still occupy the spots, treating the charging station like their personal living room, glaring at anyone who dares approach as if they were trespassing on sacred land. But you know what? Not everyone in this world is a pushover. If they can shamelessly hog the station, then I can just as shamelessly come up with a plan for revenge, one that's both hilarious and clever. Today, I'm going to share with you a psychological counterattack so masterful that it'll make these entitled Tesla drivers question their very existence. Let's embark on this battle for justice at the charging station. The Tesla lords and their kingdom. I live in a modern, luxurious apartment complex, at least according to the glossy marketing brochures. Among the most praised amenities is the state-of-the-art EV charging station, a shining symbol of green technology. But in reality, it operates more like an ancient feudal system where the strong dominate and the weak walk. The building has clear rules. Park only while charging. Move your car as soon as charging is complete. No one can occupy a charging spot beyond the allowed time. Sounds orderly, right? But then I discovered an unspoken rule that overpowered all official regulations. If you own a Tesla, you are officially the lord of the charging station. Yes, a group of Tesla drivers in my complex had crowned themselves the kings of the chargers, deciding that this wasn't a shared facility but their untouchable territory. Some would leave their cars plugged in overnight as if their Teslas needed to cuddle with the charger for a deeper emotional bond. Others wouldn't even plug in but still occupied the space as if the station were their personal VIP parking spot. And what about me? Every time I needed to charge my car, I had to embark on an exhausting quest to find an alternative station, like a contestant on a survival reality show for EV owners. Management's legendary level of incompetence. Frustrated, I reported the issue to building management. And guess what their response was? We'll look into it. Translation: we'll have a meeting, drink tea, and forget about it. We'll remind them later. Translation: we'll send an email no one will read. Result? Absolutely nothing changed. The Teslas continued their long-term residency at the charging station, while I remained an electricity-hunting nomad. At this point, I knew I couldn't wait for management to take action. If I did, I'd probably have grandchildren before the issue was resolved. It was time to take matters into my own hands, and trust me, this would be a payback they'd never forget. My genius plan, the Tesla panic attack. I decided to conduct a thorough investigation of the Tesla lords, or as I called them, the self-proclaimed rulers of the charging station. Just as I suspected, they had incredibly predictable habits, as if they had signed lifetime contracts for those spots. Some left their cars overnight, convinced that EVs need to sleep with the charger for better performance. Others parked all day, only unplugging when they had to go to work, treating the cable as more of a fashion accessory than an actual power source. This situation couldn't continue. After careful observation, I devised a plan, and trust me, this wasn't just any plan. This was a masterpiece. I started with a simple but powerful weapon: bright red sticky notes, the perfect color for triggering anxiety, panic, and, most importantly, guilt. The message? No need for threats, just enough to make them sweat. This vehicle has been reported for exceeding the allowed charging time. Management will take action within 24 hours. Reminder: this vehicle is in violation of charging station rules. Let's be real, this is like getting an email from your boss with the subject line, "We need to talk." Instant heart attack. The execution? I moved like a ninja, swiftly slapping those notes onto the windshields of the Tesla Lord's vehicles before disappearing like a ghost. But words alone weren't enough. I needed a full-scale psychological thriller. The final touch? I sprinkled a bit of white chalk dust on their windshields. The effect? Their Teslas now looked like they had been inspected and marked for towing. This move played into their biggest fear. Seeing something unfamiliar on your car? First instinct, panic. Nobody wants to be the center of attention, especially when they know they're in the wrong. I could already imagine the scene, them stepping into the parking lot, spotting the red warning note and the mysterious chalk marks, and sprinting to their cars like they were escaping an explosion. The aftermath: sweet, sweet victory. The next morning, I woke up early, grabbed my coffee, and took my usual spot in the shadows to watch the show unfold. Everything played out exactly as I predicted. One Tesla driver saw the red warning note, and his eyes widened as if he had just received a $10,000 electric bill. Another frantically called someone, voice trembling, "Oh no, do you think they'll tow my car?" The most stubborn one, who usually parked all day without a care, sprinted out like Usain Bolt, unplugged his car, and sped away like he was being chased by the FBI. I sipped my coffee, savoring the moment. I didn't have to do anything else. The panic spread on its own. Even before management stepped in, the fear of consequences had already forced them to change their behavior. And just like that, overnight, the charging station transformed. The once untouchable Teslas started moving as soon as charging was complete. The station, previously a VIP lounge for entitled drivers, suddenly became accessible to everyone. Management, who had previously ignored the issue, suddenly sent out an urgent email reminding residents of the charging station rules, warning of strict enforcement. Who was behind it all? Me. But, of course, no one would ever know. The success of this operation was beyond my wildest dreams. The professional space hoggers, who once treated the charging station as their personal driveway, suddenly became model citizens. Before, cars left parked all day, sometimes without even being plugged in. Now, the moment their battery hit 100%, they unplugged faster than people grabbing a Black Friday deal. The lesson? When logic fails, create drama. Not everyone follows rules out of goodwill. Some people need a little extra motivation to understand that the world doesn't revolve around them. My fake warning tactic wasn't vandalism, it was a psychological wake-up call. Before, they ignored the rules without a second thought. But after waking up to find their car seemingly marked, they suddenly became the most responsible drivers in the building. And the best part? Once people change their habits, they forget they ever did things differently. Your turn. Ever encountered someone who thought the world revolved around them? How did you deal with it? Direct confrontation or a sneaky, brilliant plan like mine? Drop a comment and share your most satisfying payback stories. Story 2, Sister-in-law, don't be delusional, you're not part of my family. Have you ever met someone who thinks they're way more important than they actually are? Someone who behaves as if the entire world revolves around them? They're overly confident, constantly imposing their presence on others, whether people want it or not. This type of person not only believes they are special but also forces everyone around them to acknowledge it, even when no one agrees. They intrude into everything, act as if they have control over all matters, and if anyone dares to push back, they immediately create drama. And today, I'm going to tell you a story about my sister-in-law, a woman who self-proclaimed herself as the most important member of the family, to the point where everyone else was left speechless. But life has its own way of balancing things. When someone becomes too delusional, reality will slap them hard. And my sister-in-law? She was no exception. Rocket. Are you ready? Because this story will make you feel angry, amused, and absolutely satisfied. I have a sister-in-law, my brother's wife. We were never close, and to be honest, I never really liked her. But the problem wasn't that we were distant or had different personalities. The real issue was that she saw herself as the most important person in my family, and in a completely twisted way. From the moment she stepped into our house as my brother's wife, she acted like she was my parents' biological daughter. Not in a natural and respectful way, but in a forced manner, as if she was trying to take center stage. A few classic examples. She constantly referred to my parents as mom and dad in a way that felt unnatural, even though their relationship wasn't close at all. During holidays, instead of visiting her own parents, she clung to our family, making my parents feel awkward. They didn't want to reject her, but they also didn't understand why she treated her husband's family as her main home while treating her own family as an afterthought. In private family conversations, not only did she insert herself, but she also acted as if her opinion mattered more than mine, even though I was my parents' actual child. But the real breaking point? One day, I planned a small, intimate birthday celebration with only close family. But my sister-in-law took it upon herself to organize a grand event, inviting a whole bunch of her friends, without even asking me. My birthday party, which was supposed to be a family gathering, suddenly turned into her personal social event. I had tolerated a lot, but enough was enough. I had put up with so much from my sister-in-law, always letting things slide, thinking it wasn't worth arguing over. But everything finally exploded when she started interfering in my family's most important decisions, things she had absolutely no right to be involved in. Where did it all start? My parents were planning their will. To me, this was entirely their business, a private matter between them and their biological children. I didn't care about inheritance or money, but one thing was certain, my sister-in-law had no say in this matter. Yet, what did she do? She inserted herself into the conversation as if it were her concern. She kept asking my parents how they would divide the assets, who would get what, and whether it was fair. And worst of all, she even started giving her own opinions on how things should be divided, even though no one asked. Then, she turned to me with a condescending look and said, "I just want to make sure you don't get too much so that your brother gets a fair share." Wait. What? I wasn't fighting over anything. I had never even asked about the inheritance. But who gave her the right to decide who gets what? Who did she think she was to interfere in my family's private matters? This was not her money. This was not her decision to make. Yet, she acted as if she had the ultimate authority. That was the final straw. I had tolerated too much, but this time, I was done. I was furious, and I knew that if I didn't set clear boundaries now, she would continue overstepping. So, I decided to do something she never saw coming. At a family gathering, everything seemed normal until my sister-in-law, once again, tried to assert her imaginary authority, inserting her opinions into something that had nothing to do with her. I knew it was time to speak up. Taking a deep breath, I calmly interrupted the conversation, looked her straight in the eyes, and said loud and clear for everyone to hear. "Sister-in-law, let me make something clear. You are my brother's wife, but that does not give you the right to interfere in everything concerning my family." The room went silent. She stared at me, wide-eyed, stuttering, completely shocked. She clearly didn't expect me to confront her so directly. I continued, my voice calm but firm. "There are personal matters between my parents and me. You are not their child, and you have no right to make decisions for them. Know your place." The final blow. My brother turned pale, too stunned to say a word. My parents nodded in agreement, as if finally relieved that someone had said what they couldn't. And my sister-in-law? She was frozen in place, her face turning red, unable to respond. For the first time, she realized she had crossed a line. And for the first time, I saw her genuinely shaken, confused, embarrassed, and maybe even scared. I didn't need to yell. I didn't need to argue. But with a few straightforward words, I made her understand some boundaries should never be crossed. After that day, she changed completely. She stopped clinging to my family. Family dinners, which used to be her stage to play the favorite daughter-in-law, became much quieter as she kept her distance. She no longer interfered in private matters or tried to dictate what I should do. Where she once acted like she was the main character, she now became cold, distant, and even avoided me altogether. Do I regret it? Not at all. Because this wasn't about fighting, it was about setting boundaries. Lesson learned. You can't control how others treat you, but you can control how you respond. Some people don't understand subtlety, so sometimes, you have to be direct. If you stay silent, they'll think their behavior is normal and keep pushing the limits. Patience isn't always the best approach. Sometimes, you have to stand up for yourself. Have you ever met someone like this? If you had a sister-in-law, or anyone, who constantly meddled in your life, how would you handle it? Comment below and share your experience. Story 3, won't stop calling? Okay, I'll show you what you're doing wrong. Have you ever met someone who just doesn't understand the concept of stop? Someone who clings to you like a piece of gum stuck to your shoe, no matter how hard you try, you just can't shake them off? Have you ever been in this situation? Your phone keeps buzzing non-stop, the screen flashing with dozens of missed calls. You don't answer, yet they persist. You ignore their messages, but they keep bombarding you with relentless questions. First Messenger, then Zalo, then emails, just to remind you about the most trivial things that aren't worth your time. At first, I thought they were just unintentionally annoying. But then, as the calls kept coming day after day, as I blocked one number only for them to call from another, I realized this wasn't just an accident anymore. This was an obsession. I tried ignoring, blocking, and staying silent, but they clung to me like a shadow. I had no idea what their motive was: a debt left unpaid, an apology left unaccepted, or just someone who didn't understand personal boundaries. But one day, I decided enough was enough. If they didn't understand stop, I was going to teach them a lesson they wouldn't forget. It all started with a simple decision. All of this chaos began with what seemed like a completely normal decision: selling my old gaming console on a classified ad site. I never expected that one simple transaction would land me an unwanted best friend. Everything went smoothly at first. A man named Brian messaged me, interested in buying the console. He agreed to the price without haggling. Perfect, I thought. No bargaining, no delays, just a quick and easy transaction. I even smiled, feeling proud that I had found a reasonable buyer. But I was wrong, very wrong. From buyer to stalker. Right after receiving the console, Brian started messaging me. At first, his questions seemed pretty normal. I can't install this game, can you help me? Does this console support this accessory? Can you video call me and guide me through the setup? As a responsible seller, I politely answered his questions and gave him clear instructions. I figured that if I helped him a couple of times, he'd be satisfied and move on. But no. A few days later, Brian transformed into a relentless messaging bot. In the middle of the night, my phone buzzed non-stop, and when I checked, I couldn't believe my eyes. How do I turn the console on? Did you even read the manual? Why is my screen dark? Maybe because you turned it off? Can you come to my house and fix it? Are you serious? At this point, I started feeling uneasy. This wasn't just a regular buyer anymore, this was a toxic relationship. The nightmare really began. If you think this was the worst part, think again. Brian didn't just text, he called. And when I didn't pick up, he spammed me like I owed him my life. I always thought selling things online was just about exchanging money for goods. But this experience made me realize that some sales take away more than just an item, they take away your peace of mind. And still, that wasn't even the worst part. At first, I thought his late-night texts and ridiculous questions were the peak of his nonsense. But no, he decided to take his obsession to the next level by calling me constantly. At first, I thought, just don't pick up, and he'll give up. But Brian was not the kind of person who gave up easily. He called once. Then twice. Then 5 times. And before I knew it, 20 calls in one evening. At this point, I wasn't even angry anymore, I was terrified. This wasn't just a normal buyer anymore, this was someone obsessed with me. Blocking him didn't even help. Completely fed up, I blocked his number. I sighed in relief, thinking I had finally escaped this nightmare. But guess what? He called me from another number. That's when I officially realized I was dealing with someone who didn't understand the concept of giving up. Furious, I sent him a message. Can you please stop bothering me? I only sold you the console, I'm not your tech support. I thought a polite reminder would make him understand. But no. His response made my jaw drop. I paid you for the console, so you're responsible for helping me whenever I need. Excuse me? Did he think that buying a console meant buying me as well? At that moment, I realized that being nice wasn't going to work. If he wanted to play games, then fine, I was going to play, but by my rules. And that's when my revenge began. After endless calls and nonsensical messages, I knew ignoring him wasn't enough. If he didn't understand a polite no, I would make him understand in a way he wouldn't forget. I sent him a message, using the most professional tone possible, like a VIP customer service rep. Okay, I can help you, but under one condition. I charge a support fee, $50 per hour, minimum 2 hours. Do you agree? I could almost picture his face while reading the message, eyes wide open, mouth hanging in shock. He probably never expected that he'd have to pay for his own nuisance. And, as expected, he immediately responded. What? How dare you charge me? You're the seller, you have to help me for free. I smirked, typing my reply. Would you call Microsoft or Sony and ask for free help? I am not a customer support service. If you call me again, I will send you an invoice. At this point, I knew he was starting to panic. But to make sure he really understood, I sent my final blow. I took a screenshot, showing all of his spam messages and missed calls, and attached a final message. If you don't stop now, I'll post this online so everyone can see how annoying you are. The fate of a nuisance. Guess what happened next? Brian completely disappeared. No more messages. No more calls. No more ridiculous questions like, do I need to plug in my console to turn it on? He vanished faster than a broke shopper at a flash sale. I had never seen someone learn their lesson so fast. A person who once refused to be ignored, who relentlessly found ways to contact me, now acted like he never even existed. Turns out, when annoying people are faced with a choice between paying up or shutting up, they'll always take the cheaper option. The lesson? Some people won't understand a no until you leave them no other choice. Don't be afraid to set boundaries. If someone crosses the line, make them regret it. Sometimes, you don't need to argue or get angry, just make them realize that being annoying will cost them. Have you ever dealt with someone as annoying as Brian? What would you do in this situation? Share your best revenge stories in the comments. Take control of your life. In life, you'll always encounter people who push boundaries, whether it's family, friends, or complete strangers. But remember, you have the right to decide who gets access to your space and to what extent. Respect yourself first before expecting others to respect you. No one can control your life unless you let them. The way you set boundaries will determine how people treat you. The world doesn't revolve around anyone, everyone has their own place. Live a life where you are in control, not someone else.